So first of all, we discuss what are the things we discussed about a Windows Server. First one, a small topic wise review, and I will immediately I will go to some other topics also. So we'll see, look at here. In the Windows servers, so first of all, we have to discuss about, we discussed about a what is a server. Server provide a service. Server provide this provide a service. Okay, client access the service. Okay, this is generally when you are talking from the server side, but the reality is like this: client request for a service and server responds to client, respond to the client. In a some what are the responses? Either it is give, not give, it is there, not there. In some response it is give. Okay, respond, it will respond to the client as per the service request, as per the client request. Exactly say to the server, client request to the server and server respond to the client. So client asking for a DNS request, server respond DNS related. So as for the client, so server respond to the client. So like that. So that is, keep it in mind. Next, peer. What is peer to peer? It is like a workgroup type only. It is like a workgroup, or a workgroups also comes under peer to peer. So what is peer to peer? It is a PC to PC communication. PC to PC. That does not mean only two PCs are there. Okay, does not mean two PCs are there. Exactly say one PC act like a server and other PC act like a client at present places. Okay, so for example, I have a PC and I have another PC. It's not like a direct to direct connection, not like a point to point connection, not a point to point connection. Anything is like very bad. Guys, can you able to hear?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
yes, sir.
Yeah, earlier actually in starting I got a network related issues. Net is very slow. Okay, so for example, I have a data, okay, in a PC1 and this is PC2 or a PCA, PCB, anything. Here is a data is available. I shared this data and from here I can able to access. Okay, this is the original data is available. I can access from PC2. That is PC1 giving a access to PC2. Actually, PC2 is asking, give me a access to your data folder. So PC1 is allow access. For example, I have a printer. Enter is connected to the PC2. I shared a printer. I shared a printer. So PC1 want to access this printer through network. So PC2 will give you permission. Yes, you can able to access the printer. So then you can able to take a print like this. It's a peer to peer. It means one system act like a server, another system is act like a client. You send a ping request and it will give ping response or a pong response. Actually, you're pinging and it will give pong. So it is peer-to-peer communication. Peer-to-peer. Okay, PC to PC communication. One PC act like a server and other one is act like a client. No permanent server and client here. but there is no permanent server client relationships in the peer-to-peer. Okay, so peer-to-peer. Next one is workgroup and domain. We discussed about a workgroup and domain. What is a workgroup? Decentralized administration. Decentralized decentralized administration. Okay, workgroup is a decentralized administration. This is the workgroup. This is a decentralized administration. Sorry guys, mind not connecting. Decentralized administration. Okay, every PC has a local admin. Okay, every PC has a local admin. You can't control, no centralized server. No centralized server kind of stuff. Okay. Yeah, one point we missed it here because when I said server kind of stuff, I didn't write that one. Okay, so no centralized server kind of stuff. Okay. No centralized controller. A server, no centralized controller. Like that already we discussed, so get the points from there. Okay. Here it is. When I say peer-to-peer, again you have to write about a server to client. Yes, these are common questions. If you don't you want more points, okay, also you can try what is peer-to-peer, what is server client, what is work group, what is domain. Okay, it is very important in your interview also. Okay, so server client already explained. Server provides service, client access the service. Again, same thing only I'm writing here. Okay, this side by server means which provide service. Again, services means it can be a DHCP server provide a DHCP service. Okay, means IP address. It assigns IP addresses. It assign IP address to clients. Okay, it assign an IP address automatically to the clients, right? So DHCP service, DNS. I'm not writing everything. So name services, name IP address services. DHCP service. What it is? Assign IP address to clients. So give name to IP address. You given a name, you will get a IP address. You will give a name and you will get a IP address. DNS services. Active directory. Active directory means it stores domain, user, computer, groups, and resources. And also do authenticate. Users and computers. Okay, so like this, WDS, deployment service. WSUS, this is about all Windows. Okay, it's a update service. Okay, IIS, web service. Okay, so different type of services, guys. It's like a exchange. Exchange is not a built-in Windows server, but it is exchange. It's a mail service related. Mail server or a mail services. Okay, web server. Tomcat is a web server. HTTPD is a web server. Okay, like this. So lot of different type of servers and their services. DHCP server, DNS server, Active Directory server, or a domain controller, domain server, WDS, WSUS, yeah, VPN server. Okay, VPN. Another question, guys, important question. What is VPN? Okay, find out what is VPN. Very common questions. VPN, how to explain kind of stuff. Also, try to means last batch they asked one question. I think your batch or last batch I didn't remember, but they asked one question. If interview ask, explain DHCP, explain DNS, or maybe explain what is VPN, or explain what is firewall. Okay, so I can explain you as like a trainer. I can explain you, but how to tell at time of interview. Here I can explain using a paintbrush or maybe a notepad. I can explain one by one example like that. That is for understanding. I can explain it, but at the time of interview, you don't get anything. Like you don't get a paintbrush, you don't get any tools or anything, right? So how to clearly tell a particular answer? Okay, clearly tell a particular answer. Most of the internet answers are like magic words only. Magic words only. Okay, it is a scalable, resourceable, utilizable. Okay, readable. Okay, anytime, anywhere. So what is the meaning of that one? Still, we don't get that one meaning kind of stuff, right? So compulsory, go to a neutral and answers. Neutral answers. Okay, so that's the thing. So like this, multiple different type of servers are there. It provides that kind of services and client will utilize the services. So this is server and client. Server provide a service, client access service. Server is stable and a single server only. Okay, unlike your peer-to-peer, it won't exchange. Peer-to-peer and work groups are same. Okay, so in the environment, there is no specific centralized server. Okay, but in a work group, we have to say there is no centralized controllers. Individual PCs are administered individually. Local group policies will take more importance, right? So group policies applied in locally only. One user of a PC or a computer cannot log in other PC. So like that. So you can say that. Next one is domain. Okay. The domain, two definitions are there: Active Directory domain and just what is the thing. So when you search in a Google, always try to search as a AD domain. So don't search as a domain. If you search as a domain, it will give a little different kind of answers. So domain is the most common English word, so that's why it is give you different answers. So when you're doing it, so use AD domain. Okay, so I'm giving one statement here. So that is called logical administrative boundary of users Okay, so this is one statement compulsory. That's a good statement it is. But even to come to the when you are comparing work group and domain kind of stuff, it is a centralized administration. Okay, so centralized control is there. Every PC and user in domain has central admin. Okay, so it's nothing but domain admin. What it is, so centralized controller is there, so that is called a domain controller. So users and computers information store in domain controller, so that users can log in to any of domain computer. Domain computer means belongs to that domain, not in the work group. Okay, any of domain controller. This is important. Next one is what is Active Directory? Okay, what is Active Directory? What is ADDS? This kind of stuff will come up. Guys, Active Directory ADDS, nothing but a same. Active Directory earlier name is Active Directory, later name is Active Directory Domain Services because of later in a 2008. So Active Directory is divided into multiple things. Active Directory Domain Services, Active Directory Federation Services, Active Directory ADRMS, Rate Management System, Active Directory Certification Services, like that. So Active Directory, in the Active Directory, there's a totally 5 things that came up. So one of the services is Active Directory Domain Services. It is a Microsoft services. Okay, it is introduced by Microsoft only. Active Directory database for user identity user group computer resources services. So anybody remember Active Directory database name? ntds.dit. It's divided into 4 partitions. Okay, it is divided into 4 partitions. Okay, that part I will tell, but here it is. Second point. It also provide authentication. It also provide authentication service. Okay. Authentication service. Authentication when user and computer login to domain. Authentication service name. Anyone? Protocol name. BR OS. Okay, port number 88. Of course, there is a two authentication protocols are there. So one is Kerberos, another one is LDAP 389. Okay, so Active Directory. What is Active Directory? Active Directory is a Microsoft Microsoft service. Active Directory is a Microsoft service, and Active Directory database stores identity of users, groups, computers, resources, and services into services. And it also provide authentication service when user and a computer log into the domain. Active Directory database name is NTDS DIT. Authentication protocols are Kerberos and LDAP protocols. Okay, next. Actually, I said a DFS, but I am continuing with Active Directory because that is also part in the syllabus. Okay, so that is about your basically Active Directory. Okay, I said a partitions of Active Directory. So AD database partitions, Active Directory database partitions. So Active Directory by database name is NTDS dot DIT. New technology directory service, directory information tree. Okay, so our Active Directory database partitions. Okay, this is divided into different partitions, right? So AD partitions, configuration partition, schema partition, domain partition, application partitions. 4 partitions are there. So configuration partitions store the entire forest configuration. Schema stores the schema configuration in the schema partition, means how to do all these things. So domain partition stores in the particular domains information only. Application partition is optional one. Configuration partition configuration and schema partitions common for entire forest, means forest contain forest. What is a forest? Forest is a collection of domain and domain trees. Collection of domain and domain trees. In a forest, in a single forest, lot of domains are there. So that is a forest. Okay. So configuration and schema partition common for a entire forest. So that is keep it in mind. Next. Okay, so like a schema, what is the schema kind of stuff is also come up like that. So it's okay. So up to here. It's up to here, okay? Again, domain tree. Domain definition already I told. Domain tree, child domain, site, OU is also important. OU means organizational unit. Okay. OU is an organizational unit. Okay. Stores. It is just for a show purpose only. Organizational store. It stores users, computers, groups, like that. It means you create a users or a store computers. What it is contain, organizational unit contains users, groups, computers, groups, and based on a role or a category. category. So that is OU organizational unit. So two benefits of OU is there. So we can easily apply group policy. Second one is delegation control. Can give control over the particular OU to a user and only to the particular thing. So what the control means, different type of control things like a particular user I given a control over the particular OU is, yeah, he can able to create a user, or he can reset passwords of the user, or I said he can add a user to the domain. Sorry, he can add a user to a group, or he can create a groups like that. So different type of controls I can give over the particular OUs of a user to a user. So that is called a delegation control. Apply group policies. You can link the group policies to a particular OU. The OU users, groups, and computers will affect with that policies. Okay, and that is OU. Sites. That site means so geographical location of domain and the domain controllers. Your domain controllers are located in a different places. Your domains in a different places. Or like in Hyderabad, I have 5 servers are there. In Mumbai, 2 servers are there. Delhi, 3 servers are there. Chennai for 10 servers are there. Like different locations, different number of servers, domains, and all. Different user groups are there. So we can apply a policy on a particular site. The entire site will be affected the policy, and we can also synchronize your data from one to another one. So like this, like you want to configuration partition, schema partition, you want to manage both the places. So then it is required. Okay. Geographical location, Hyderabad site, like that it will be there. Because already I forward a PPT to you, so compulsory go through the PPT to find the definitions what I am writing here. So that's a very good for a sleeping kind of stuff, right? Next, SID, security identifier. Anything identify kind of stuff. Okay, so every account in DC or ADC, whatever it is. Okay, every account in a domain controller, or every account has a SID, except certain accounts. Okay, like users, groups, computers are there in a groups. Distribution groups don't have SIDs. Okay, so security identifier. So every account has a SID. Okay, so SID is like this. So type of ID. Okay, and active directory database number. And RID. So your SID is a combination of type of ID, means is it user, group, or computer. A database, where the database is located and what is the database number. Next, last one is RID. Again, RID is relative ID. Relative ID or identifier. Relative ID. So for example, yeah, I'm not able to show you anything here. So that's a difficult one. Okay. So don't worry. Guys, these are important: physical components and logical components, data store, domain controllers, global catalog servers or ODCs, partitions, schema, domain trees, forest, sites, and OUs. These are logical components and physical components. These are the physical components. Okay, they specifically separately written the syllabus for this one. That's why I'm telling this one again. Okay, so partitions, schema there. So schema is also written here. Schema is like a blueprint of Active Directory. Okay. OU is like nothing but a container. So use it to for a delegate administrative control over the objects in the OU and a group policy application. Okay. This is an Active Directory forest. Forest is a collection of one or more domain trees. A tree is a collection of one or more domains. The first domain in the forest, first domain that is created in the forest is called forest root domain. A forest root domain contains few objects that does not exist in other domains in the forest. Okay. So forest is a security boundary. ADDS forest is also replication boundary for configuration and schema partitions in the Active Directory database. ADDS forest is also replication boundary for global catalog. So that's one more pending is there, global catalog server. By default, all domains in the forest automatically trust other domains in the forest. So what is a schema? It is component define all objects and attributes. Already told, guys. All the stories I already told. So then just I'm giving. Okay, what is ADDS domain? So why? Because it's specifically separately given for you. So it tell how to create an object, how to add a client to domain. Okay, how to create a user, how to check on the computer, how to create a group. Okay, like this. ADDS component that define all object types and attributes that ADDS use to store data. This is sometimes referred as a blueprint of Active Directory. So here it is. What is this objects? When you create a user and see there is a new object it is showing, right? So user is an object, group is an object, OU is an object, computer is a object, computer an object. Okay. So your user is an object, group is an object, OU is an object, computer is an object, like that. So all these things are objects only. Okay. Next, what is this? Attributes. What is this? Attributes. Attribute is like a FIR. First name, okay, location, different things are there, no, group name, okay, a group name, like that. So email ID, okay, organization name, address, these are all comes under attributes. When you create an object, so there is a options are there, no? So you have to fill those form, that is called a attributes. And also class, user class, group class means where you do work while you are creating or managing the objects. The window it is called a class. Okay, so that will be defined by schema. Okay, why I'm telling this much again and again? Why? Because of you may see in the questions that most of the questions are related to the Linux, but there is a lot of chances of people are asking questions from the Active Directory also. There, because of last time people are asked what is schema kind of stuff also. So never leave anything left behind. This is a very good PPT, guys, which is prepared by me only. Okay, so you can see account expiry, building names, company, manager, display name. These are all comes under schema only. So domain controller, two things are showing it is configured store a copy of Active Directory database and a copy of sysfile folder. KDC, so key distribution center. This is how. Okay. Not this one. This is the global catalog. So next one is global catalog, guys. So I will explain what is this global catalog. So just for a thing only, it is already in the PPT. So already I shared a PPT to you. So check it. So simple explanation of the global catalog is look at this thing. Okay, here in this one. So yeah, okay. So this is possible now. Okay, so this is the global catalog. Look at here. Which one we better? We will take green, blue. Every color he used it, so I will use this color. Guys, this is a domain A, and this is domain B. So I want to go with the domain B first. Here is a partitions are showing schema partition, configuration partition, schema partition, configuration partition, domain partition, domain partition. Okay, so domain B, two domain controllers, one and a two, do domain controllers 1 and 2. Okay, so here it is. Look at this domain controllers. Yeah, two domain controllers contains a domain database. Which domain database? Domain B database only. In both the servers contains domain B database only. Next one is domain A. Domain controller, and this is another domain controller. Again, it contains a schema partition, configuration partition, domain A database only. Again, we go to this particular server, it contains schema and configuration partition, domain A partition is also there. And what is the difference? What is the difference between this particular server to all other servers? This particular server having a domain B database also. So host a partial attribute set for a other domain in the forest. Support queries for object throughout the forest. Okay. So again, look at here. This is domain A and this is domain B. So every domain has all domain controllers having common information in the forest is schema and configuration partitions are common. But in a domain A, the domain partition contains domain A information only. In domain B, contains domain B information only. In the servers, it contains domain B information only. Okay. Okay. So here it is. In the global catalog, so in the specifically a global catalog server, which is when you created forest, that time only global catalog. First server is automatically global catalog server. Like this, multiple global catalog servers, you can have it in the entire forest. So in entire forest, again, look at here, where the global catalog is there. The global catalog servers contains information about schema, configuration, as well as all domains in the forest, all domain database in the forest. For example, I have a domain C is there. So this is the global catalog server having domain C related database also. So this is the global catalog server. It's a global catalog server. It does not contain all attributes for each object. Instead of global contains subset of most likely to useful in a cross-domain searches. Okay. So what is this use of this global catalog? That is very important. Look at here. I have a system want to log into this particular domain. So when you are communicating from one domain to another domain, so your domain don't know my username, right? So I have a user here. This user information don't know about from here, right? What it will do? Our servers search in a global catalog. So this is the user one from domain A. Is it available? Yes, it's available. And then it verify and the user identity and passwords. Okay, so like that, it is easy to search purpose only. So is it a global category is distributed database contains searchable representation of every object from all domains in the multiple domain forest. Okay, by default, only global catalog server that is created is the first domain control in the root domain. So by default, it is created, and also whenever you create a domain controller in the domain, so obviously you can tell this is a global catalog server type. Okay. Okay, so it hosts a partial attribute set for other domains in the forest, supports queries for object throughout the forest. Okay, so throughout the forest. Okay, so entire forest. If any cross domain communication is happen, so you can easily search from the global catalog because of only global catalog contains information about all other domains information. So that is a global catalog. Login process, again, it will need a lot of patience. This is about our SID, guys. I told SID, right? This is SID. This is the SID, how it is look like. This is an example of SID. Okay. This is the type of ID. This is type of ID. And this is Active Directory database location. This is RID, relative identifier. It means if I created 100 users, okay, 10 users I created in the same domain. So type of ID same, database is same. What will change is RID. Like a user ID, group ID is there in Linux, same thing only. So up to here, common for a 10 users. The first user, for example, 500, 501, 502, 503, 504, 505, 506, like that it will goes on. How many users you created? And you created a group. It may changes, but it won't changes because in the same domain. And RID again, so different RID you will get it. So this is RID. So any security identifier, so will have this kind of stuff. Okay, every object is having a SID. Every object in the server having an SID. Okay, every SID having a RID. That is the thing. This is about your SID. Sites. This is about a survey records. That's we'll see later. This is the last part of Active Directory. Out of that one, so in an Active Directory, so here it is. The definition is there here. You can find out. Okay. So physical components, logical components. In the logical component, I think I given all the things about a OU site. Identify physical locations. So 1 second we'll go first again what it is. So what is peer-to-peer server client? What is workgroup? What is domain? What is Active Directory? And what is Active Directory partitions? Okay, partitions are logical component. Forest is logical component. Tree is a logical component. Site and OU also logical components only. Okay, domain controller is a physical component. Data store is a physical component. RODC, ADC is a also physical components. Okay, and also we discussed about what is the schema part, and then we discussed about global catalog, OU, sites, and SID. Last point, last 2 points are there, guys. That is a FSRM, file server resource man. Not that one. Active Directory part. About forest also I told. What is the forest also I told. So if you miss it, then I will give you. Okay, it comes both forest and domain trees also. Okay. The last point I will tell, very last point I will tell how to login kind of stuff, ticket granting, ticket, that explanation I will give you. Okay, so I will go to straight. Okay, FSMO roles. Flexible. Flexible single master operation. Flexible single master operation. Yeah, 1 second. Okay. Flexible single master operation roles. These are the roles. FSMO roles are very important in the domain controller. Okay. So, guys, before going to that one, so I will divide few things. Domain controller. Normally, nowadays, we call this one as a domain controller. Is like a DC, right? So earlier days, we call this domain controller as primary domain controller. Okay, so this is called a domain controller. Okay. In old days, we call this one as a primary domain controller because the first domain controller is starting domain controller is primary domain controller. Remaining is like a secondary domain controller. Additional domain controller. So it is like a secondary domain controller. It is like a secondary domain controller. Additional domain controller. Secondary domain controller. So in old days, we call it as a backup domain controller. It is like a secondary one. For backup means if primary domain controller is down, no problem. Backup domain controller will be useful. Okay, we can do authentication with it. Okay, like that. So primary domain controller, additional domain controllers are there. And 2008 newly introduced one is RODC. Read only domain controller. Read only domain controller. So this is a newly introduced. So read only domain controller. But important is domain controller, additional domain controller, primary domain controller, backup domain controller. In any domain, FSMO roles in primary domain controller only. In a PDC only, primary domain controller means domain controller only, not in a PDC. Not in a ADC or a BDC kind of stuff. Not in a BDC kind of stuff by default. By default, we can for roles from DC to ADC. That is very important. Next, if domain controller or a PDC is down to make additional domain controller or a backup domain controller to domain controller or a primary domain controller. Make additional domain controller or a BDC backup domain controller to domain controller means primary domain controller. Okay, to make a backup domain controller to primary domain controller. So we have to cease roles in DC. Okay, so and promote ADC as DC. Automatically it promotes. So you don't need to do anything. Just once you are done seizing of your DC. Okay. So here it is. It is the roles actually stores in the primary domain controller. In the primary domain controller, the FSMO roles are there. If okay, so you can transfer certain roles from additional domain controller to additional domain controller or a backup domain controller. If your main primary domain controller is down, so then you can make additional domain controller to primary domain controller, main domain controller by seizing roles of domain controller. Exactly what is that one, and automatically promotes our backup domain controller to. So here it is, 5 roles. FSMO roles are 5 FSMO roles are there. 5 FSMO roles are there. So here it is. First one is Schema Master. Okay, Schema Master. Domain Naming Master. Domain Naming Master. RID Master. It's a master roles. RID Master. Infrastructure Master. You know, earlier days we go to interviews. That time it is very important question. This is one of the important question. So compulsory you have to tell. Okay, we should not say we don't know. Means it is you know Active Directory means you should know five roles. That's very simple. Okay, even though you don't understand, but you have to tell 5 names. Okay, that's it. But we always about to speak 4 only. We always recollect 4 only. 1 definitely we will miss it. Now I'm not missing it. So okay, Pdc Emulator Master. Infrastructure. Okay, so spelling is different, but check it once. Okay, Schema Master, Domain Naming Master, and RAD Master, Infrastructure Master, and Pdc Emulator Master. Forest domain means forest root domain controller has 5 roles and all other domains in forest has 3 roles only. Those are domain wide roles. So look at here. This is the forest, contains all 5. Remaining domains contains these 3 only. Forest contains 5 roles. Remaining domains contains RAD master, infrastructure master, and Pdc Emulator Master. Okay, guys, there is an explanation in this one, so you can try explanation also. Domain naming master, schema master, RAD master, infrastructure master, Pdc Emulator Master. It's 4:30, so I didn't see the time. Okay, here it is. Domain naming master. Domain naming master means whenever you join a domain, new domain is joined. New domain is joined. So obviously, new domain is joined. So that will be added or removed. Like a domain is removed. So that will be taken care by domain naming master. It is like a role, guys. You may get a doubt, sir. What is the master role kind of stuff? Think like my duty. I'm a trainer. What is my duty? To teach, to start a session, to explain and demonstrate the lab practicals. Okay, like that. So that is my role. For example, you take a Pawni madam is a HR, right? So batch regulations, scheduling, or maybe conducting, talking to people, fees collection, like this. So every person has their own kind of what we can say. Their role is there, no? In a job role is there. Same thing. Our forest operation master role is there. That is a domain naming master and schema master. Domain naming master work is if any domain is joined or a removed, okay, or additional domain controller, anything is joined in a thing. So it will take care of that and naming part. This domain, this is a domain controller that must be connected when you are add or remove a domain. When you make a domain name changes, okay, that time domain naming master must be running. Schema master. So schema master is a domain controller where all schema changes are made. So to make changes, you must typically log on to the domain schema master as a member of both schema admin and enterprise admins group. Okay, so you can edit the schema if you are a member of schema admins and enterprise admins. To edit or to change any schema related things, schema master role will responsible for that one. Next one is RAD master. Already we see in SID. Okay, in a SID we have a RAD. In a SID we have a RAD, relative identifier is there. When you create a objects like a user group or a computer OUs, when you create any objects, so each and every object having a RAD. This RAD master, when whenever the object is created, so RAD master will give you RAD address. Okay, RAD address, like it contains a pool of RAD addresses. When any object is created, it gives you RAD. Next is infrastructure master. Infrastructure master is whenever the user is trying to log into other domain, inter-domain communication within the same forest. Okay, so your user want to log into any other user, other domain. So infrastructure master verify user authentication, means user SIDs will be authenticated by infrastructure master, verified by infrastructure master. The last one is Pdc Emulator Master. Pdc Emulator Master. So domain control that holds PDC Emulator Master. There's a two major things are there. So one is time synchronization. One is like a time synchronization. Guys, I am in a different location. My server is in different location. I want to get authenticated. So our server make sure that both should be maintaining regular time related. For example, I'm in India, Indian time zone, Indian time, exact Indian time. Today, date and the time must be matches with the Indian time zone. Your server is in the New Jersey. So as for New Jersey time zone and New Jersey time must be given to your server. Okay, depends upon your time zone and time, date and time must matches with the server. Then only authentication will occur. Who will verify? Pdc Emulator Master will verify the time synchronization. Next, you want to assign an IP, you want to change password or assigning a password to the user account. You want to assign or doing a user account kind of stuff. You are changing a passwords of a user. So that also involved with the PDC Emulator Master. So there is a point is called where the PDC Emulator Master located. That domain is primary domain controller. So the forest means FSMO roles basically located in primary domain controller. Basically located in primary domain controller. Okay. So I'll put it here. So FSMO roles only in PDC primary domain controller. Okay. Next, we can transfer. Already I have written by default. We can transfer role from domain controller to additional domain controller or a primary domain controller to backup domain controller. So while you're transferring, be careful. So why? Because of where PDC Emulator Master role located, where the PDC Emulator Master role located, that DC is PDC. That domain is become primary domain controller. Okay, where the PDC Emulator Master is role, so that domain controller is primary domain controller. I put a instead of that one. Of course, we can check with the command is called a net dom command is there. Okay, enough is still enough. TFS util command is there. These are the commands to manage this thing. So this is about your active directory, guys. Very important is what is a server, what is workgroup, what is domain, what is active directory, what is active directory. These are three very important. So one is what is a workgroup, domain, active, what is active directory. Okay, so these common things are peer-to-peer, server and client kind of stuff. Okay, other things are different things like active directory partitions, forest, trees, schema, global catalogs, organizational units, how to create organizational unit, what is the use of organizational unit, that kind of stuff, sites. Okay, like this. SID, FSMO roles is a purely optional part. Okay, last point is how to login. Login process is there. So that is I'm not doing now because it's I told theory from so many much time, almost like more than 1 hour. So next one definitely we'll go to another point, but take a break, guys. Take 10-15 minutes break. Okay. Have a tea, don't sleep. Okay. I think some people are really